welcome back to the Eastern Clash, ladies and gentlemen. We are already 2 series in, and we still have many more to come for today. I am Tetra, and I am joined by the wonderful G-Clef and the irreplaceable Caldor. Guys, what do you think of those earlier series?
Well, for Tempest, it was a pretty dominant one. For Blossom as well, Gen.G, I think it's going to be very similar or even better of a one because they are strong. They're #1 from Korea, and we expect them to do well.
I'm actually just happy that I don't stand next to J-How this time. I don't like it Wolf. It's like very refreshing.
Yeah, as tall as I am, no one reaches the heights of not only commentary, but actual height that J-How does.
Oh, yes.
But, I mean, coming back to the actual clash between China and Korea, we all looked at the first series probably in particular and said, okay, maybe SPT has something up their sleeve where they can challenge Blossom a bit. That got shut down pretty quickly. Gen.G, I mean, it would be more than a bit of a miracle if that series would all of a sudden turn. So the question at this point just remains is how dominant is Gen.G going to be here, because they are the ones who are assumed to be not only in the grand final, but also to take this event.
Especially considering that, G-Clef, you can talk about this a bit more, that BTG aren't running with their full roster today, are they?
And they actually have one sub from the Korean Open division.
They do.
And he's a support player for the team, which is, I guess, better in terms of getting the teamwork together, because support, you just have to be on the back safe, making sure everyone gets the heal. But in terms of communication, because I'm pretty sure he cannot speak Chinese and they cannot speak Korean, so expect to see many pings coming out from the observer. and lots of miscommunication calls, and Gen.G, of course, they will try to be on top of that for sure.
Yeah, well, this player will be replacing Druid. His name is Healer Please. Healer Please, sorry. And we can see here a little bit of support for the Asmo Dam, brought out today earlier by Zhuyu from CE, unfortunately, to slightly less success. This is for Tis, though. I can obviously not read this. You can.
Oh yes, it says Tis, you're so good, and that was a great Heroes fan. That's always in every single offline event. He always has that drawing. But as for Dunk, you can, of course, as you can see for the skin.
My favorite thing so far is just like all the stuff that we're getting here today.
Yeah,
it's like we have a lot of things that are coming out. So we got a Ballistics one, we got a Blossom one as well, and we also got Tempest. Interestingly enough, the only one that we didn't get is Gen.G.
It was on stage, so I guess we didn't really get to
meet them
too much.
And that is adorable, by the way.
I know, it's got all the here. You can tell Dami sign.
I was also able to, we were also given yesterday, like some The One merch, which I am personally very happy with.
And you stole the pink one.
I did steal the only pink one, and there's nothing you can do about it because I got there first.
I mean,
hooray.
The only thing you have to be careful is that doesn't mess up your hair when you're trying to get a little bit of...
And the one to talk about the hair.
Someone had to.
So the other sub we're seeing here for BTG is going to be Loktar. He is the ranged assassin / flex player for RPG, usually a team that is currently in the crucible of HGC China. We'll have to see how well they do in that. But he has subbed for them before. They're all very good friends, aren't they?
And I think they can just do what because he has been in the team for such a long time. Oh, from time to time, I think they do have the teamwork, but with the new one in from Korea, I think that is the problem, though.
Yeah, he's always the one that is subbing in for them here, and they are real-life friends as well, so that kind of fits a bit into the style. But of course, it's always a big problem when you are trying to build a team up, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have to replace 2 players going into event. The visa issues have plagued China for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's something that I feel at this point they got used to a little bit. I mean, that's maybe a bit of an upside, not really the upside you're looking for here, but I feel that region has experienced so much up and downs when it came to visa issues. At least now they have someone that has played with them in the past, so there's at least a certain amount of synergy they can rely upon.
Like BTG, as a team, they did actually go to BlizzCon, but with Loktar, in fact. He was their substitute player for this, but they still have a little bit more work to do with this new Korean Open Division player. But it's also going to be very interesting to see the talent from the Korean Open Division, which might not be exposed to a Western audience as much.
And I believe that he is actually friends with Dancing, so I believe. So they have some interactions in between, so it's not totally new for them, as he just came in yesterday to start practicing. Had to have actual scrims just starting yesterday, but still, just knowing the person before, at least knowing one person from the team, it of course has to help in the draft and everything else in the game.
So let's now jump over to Gen.G. We've talked about BTG for a while, but the very first thing we can say about this team is they are the best in the world as of mid-season brawl. They currently have their eyes set on BlizzCon. This is just the first step in the road for them.
For them, it was kind of fun talking to them because first of all, we asked them if they're a little bit intimidated now that they have Snitch here analyzing their play, and also if they feel any kind of pressure since Dignitas, obviously a big rival on the international stage, hasn't even dropped a single map. They said no, they're absolutely cool with that. We're bantering with Snitch a lot, so there's definitely a friendship, especially between Snitch and Ridge. And when you talk to Gen.G, one thing that came through is that they are in a spot where they feel the Eastern Clash is even a little bit cursed to an extent where every time you do well at an Eastern Clash, you don't perform at the international tournament. So a lot of banter going on. So they're in high spirits here.
Yeah, but still, Rich, Eastern is actually the only title that he does not have.
True.
They won Eastern when Rich was not on the roster, but he's back ever since he was back in the roster. Ballistics actually came on top in all the Eastern since then, so I think Rich does have that aggression. He wants to get greedy and take this title again.
Well, hashtag Rich is the problem.
I mean, when we asked them about it, they said exactly that. They felt very conflicted about that due to the fact that they feel that if they win, they're not going to do so well at BlizzCon, but it's the only one Rich hasn't won, so they have that confliction between whether they're going to win, but right now, they're absolutely coming in first place. They were able to top their league. They're looking good.
Yeah,
but they struggled a little bit in the later weeks.
Oh yes, they did. After MSV, I think it's due to the scheduling as well for the team. They had some struggles at the beginning. It was really hard. Even in the first phase, they lost the very first match against Tempest 3-0. No one expected that to happen, but that does happen, and they actually went down to third place. And they climbed all the way to the first place after some big matches, but they had some struggles for sure. They were not perfect in the phase.
However, they have still looked insanely good, but let's have a look at our two teams in a little more detail.
因为我们队伍之前有过人员更替，然后这次来参加比赛，很多队员是第一次参加这种国际性的比赛，然后我们更多的是抱着来学习的态度来参加这次。就整体来说的话，韩国队伍4个队伍的实力可能都比中国队略胜一筹，然后，但是我觉得中国队发挥出应有的水平，应该也能打出风采。就客场作战的话，可能多多少少会有压力，然后就竭尽所能能打出我们该有的水平，我们平时的实力就行。
BTG, they have been through a restructuring, as they did say. They have looked reasonable throughout the series, the season of HGC China. Here you can see their substitute player, Healer Pliz, replacing Druid. As we move on, this is Locktar, usually a player for RPG. He was actually away for basically the entire season, but away studying, but he returned for the last weeks, and that was basically where RPG won all of their games for the season.
It's just a little bit disheartening to see that they're talking so much about how they're coming to the tournament not necessarily to reach a certain place within the top, within the 8 teams that are here, but that they're more so focused on the long-term development. It's a little bit reminiscent when you look towards North America of how Heroes Heart for the longest time approached the offline events, where they said, we're here to learn, we want to take a lot of lessons from the offline environment and from the international stage back into our region, improve as a unit, and approach it from a long-term perspective. That's exactly what BTG was saying in the interviews, and we just heard it here reflected again. The problem, of course, is when you then have the 2 sub-players coming in, it takes a bit away from it. So there's a lot more, I feel pressure now on the remaining 3 of the core roster to really take these lessons, bring them home, and make sure that they adapt that and strengthen the region.
And we could just see dancing there at the end, potentially the most legendary Hanzo that we had in HGC China. Unfortunately, Hanzo falling a little bit, not completely out of the meta, but he's a little bit less popular as Reina and Phoenix have sort of taken those top spots.
As well as a patch on the Hanzo. I believe this change with the Sonic Arrow actually affected a lot of Hanzo's play now. And I think that has to be one of the reasons why Hanzo has been dropping a lot in the draft.
All right, so it sounds like we are ready to have a deeper dive into Gen.G as well, so let's head into that.
연습을 좀 많이 해가지고 한국에서 하는 대회니까 이기자라는 생각으로 좀 많이 연습한 것 같아요.
항상 해오던 대회이긴 한데 우승이랑은 좀 운이 좀 없는 대회인 것 같아요. 근데 운은 운이고 실력은 실력이니까 이번에는 실력으로 우승해볼 수 있도록 노력해 볼게요.
큰 무대에서 한국 관중들과 함께 하는 거에 대해서 정말 기쁘고 기대가 되고 긴장이 많이 돼요. 그래서 좋게 봐주시고 응원 좀 많이 해주셨으면 좋겠어요. 그리고 꼭 우승할 수 있도록 노력하겠습니다.
이 클래시를 시작으로 이제 블리즈컨까지 계속 이어져 나갔으면은 정말 좋을 것 같아서 그에 대한 노력을 저희들이 많이 하고 있으니까 이번 클래시 많이 응원해 주셨으면 좋겠습니다.
Like how we mentioned beforehand, the focus is on BlizzCon for this event. But Gen.G, this is their first step, but they have looked on some of their best form ever.
And I mean, Gen.G is definitely bringing the fans in here as well. I was actually surprised that for Friday we already had a lot of people in the seats earlier, but right now every single seat is taken, so they might have to bring a couple more chairs out there.
Yeah.
I think the only spots that I can still see where there's nothing is a little bit in the press area where we have a few
There's
available.
a little bit at the back in the
but
corner I think we can squeeze in.
outside of that, they will definitely need a few more chairs for this. Once that we have Gen.G, the best team in Korea, coming out, they're definitely yeah, exactly. Crowd already enriched immediately.
A little
I love this.
embarrassed.
I absolutely love this.
Very much a fan favourite in both Western and Eastern regions, as it is clear. It's great to have him back and performing so well. And of course, Yoja, there we go.
The oldest in the team has been known as the boss for Gen.G.
Yeah, look at him. Just absolutely not acknowledging anything, just stare at that monitor, stay cool.
And finally, Tist. He has been pretty legendary throughout his series of recent times, with some of the most insane play out of any of the regions.
It's been a long time since we had a big international clash in Korea. Since 2016 spring, it is actually the second time ever since then.
I had actually a question earlier to a lot of the Korean teams, because we've been talking about the Clash now being in Korea, and our biggest question, or one of the questions, was, do you have family visiting? Are there some people in the crowd now cheering for you? And interestingly enough, most of the Korean players said that they don't even want their family here necessarily, because they feel it puts additional pressure onto them. So they have some friends sitting in the crowd, but when it comes to family members, very few actually come here and visit, and all of them say, yeah, they're probably going to watch from home, but if they sit in the crowd, then I feel more pressure to do well in those scenarios, and we don't want to lose any games here, especially on the first day when you're going up against China, and there's a bit of a rivalry. It was a really interesting approach, because it's so different from what you expect from the Western culture, where you have parents traveling like from Europe to North America, watching those games and vice versa. So it was pretty interesting to see the approach that they had here.
It is a different culture, how you think about the family. Of course, they do care. Not that they don't care, but you don't want to be feeling the extra pressure when you have such an important match. I think that's one part of it that matters the most about the players. You don't want to make any mistakes, so reducing down the percentage, I think that's the one thing you need to have for the stage experience for sure.
And looking at some of the other things, differences, like you said, not just in family, but play between East and West. We did just have the Western Clash. And if we were to look at the stats of someone like Tist on that tank role, he actually seems to avoid the Diablo, something that is so popular in the West, at least a little bit.
He was actually picking only Muradin and Johanna for the first 3 weeks into, because he was... Not that he was unwilling to pick anything else, he just had so big of a hero pool, and he can't be really contested with the hero pool. So the opponent team actually does not really ban out those tank cards from the other side. So he was never contested, so he ended up just playing those two most of the time. So basically he has a gigantic hero ocean to say.
So we have the maps prepared for us. It is going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen, banned out by BTG. Braxis, again banned out by Gen.G. This is consistent. They're on about 30 bans this phase for Braxis. And the first map is going to be Infernal Shrines.
Tomb of the Sky Temple.
Tomb of the Sky Temple. That's where I was going. Technically, it is thematically underneath Sky Temple.
That's
so
one of the reasons.
enough.
Exactly. Well, both of the maps, you have a bit of an Easter egg happening here. But it's
find it yourself in your games, ladies and gentlemen.
I think by now, probably everyone has found those already. But yeah, if you didn't know, Tomb of the Spike Queen is actually beneath Sky Temple.
Yeah, via a bit of a cameo from one of our favorite Warcraft characters. Won't say any more in case people haven't found it yet. They can find that on YouTube or in their own games themselves. But Infernal Shrines, let's talk about this map a little bit more. Shrine clear, one of the most important parts of the game. And we're ready to head into the draft, so we can talk about it a little bit more inside the draft, as we're going to be heading in to Infernal Shrines.
And I mean, with Infernal Shrines, you're of course focusing heavily again onto the objective. There's a lot of team fights that we can expect here. It's a bit of a bigger map than we've seen, especially in our first series with Blossom, where macro game wasn't really the huge priority here. But for me personally, it's interesting to see, okay, how is BTG going to approach this? With the 2 subs, having one of the open division players from Korea now in the lineup. From Gen.G, of course, we would expect nothing else but perfection.
And training Genji is a good start, of course, but when you're talking about Gen.G, you do have to worry about that Tracer from Rich as well, which we did not see yet. But very highly it's going to come out, even without the Tassadar, very likely, because oftentimes she would like to show off his mechanics, just go in, try to get the snipe on himself. I think that's very likely to come out.
So you mentioned Perfection, Caldor, and a very interesting fact here is this is actually one of Gen.G's lowest maps. They don't play it that often for starters, but they're actually 1-1 on this map, only a 50% win rate compared to their, well, usual 100 on basically every other map except Volskaya and Towers.
Interesting part to me, immediately the ban on Genji, so they watched the mid-season brawl in the finals here. They saw firsthand what Gen.G did to Dignitas. Big shout out to Snitch, by the way. And yeah, eliminated Genji right away.
Very sensible. But so we're starting off with the Reina damage-wise for Gen.G over the Phoenix. We've seen that priority a little bit reversed from some of the other teams.
Yep, and I think BTG has to consider about Sergeant Hammer now. Gen.G with the Rainer, Sergeant Hammer with the peel that will be available. And I think they really have to think about the rail before picking what they wanted to pick up. Gen.G, I think they're free to pick up whatever they want for now.
The Urel still continuing to be ignored by both teams, as we're seeing the Malfurion and the Garrosh with Deckard removed. Malfurion still sits high in those priorities.
And again, on the map, Urel is fantastic here. You can but also just simply flex into Leoric and into Blaze, for example. But the opening that we are seeing here from BTG is really reminiscent from what we had at the Western Clash, especially North America. Love to open with Phoenix and Diablo. We've seen that a lot. The lightning breath straight into the salvo is just insanely powerful here. Even though we have, especially in the Asian region, but also in China, also seeing quite a bit of Planet Cracker.
See the Thrall banned out, very sensible. LLK has been very fond of this era, along with Dahaka. We could still see the Dahaka, but the Thrall, that Earthquake is another fantastic setup for the Purification Salvo. So seeing that removed makes a lot of sense. But now we look to supports potentially for BTG, with Alex Straza and Deckard banned out, Malfurion taken away. We're dropping down the priority a little bit here.
There's a really different approach from Gen.G, even in the green region. On this map especially, we saw a lot of the other... Alex Straza is already banned, so Stukov that was basically a given one, but Marthael, not too common anymore in Korea.
And Urel completely ignored by these two teams. The Malthael versus Leoric draft. Leoric, of course, relatively tanky, so that percentage damage from Malthael can have some great effect.
You say Leoric, I say Diablo. I mean, the one-on-one lane, of course, is going to be a little bit tougher there. But once we are talking about the Shrine fight, then the real action kicks in. Because this is a great tool if you want to take Diablo down. And oftentimes Stukov is struggling a bit with these burst heals, especially towards the later end of the team fight. So that's definitely a setup that they can use here. Reina also is going to get great auto attacks in. You have Junkrat, the poke from outside of the shrine. Yep. And let's not only focus on that. Displacement, Garrosh and Junkrat together. When it comes to that displacement and trying to get a handle on Diablo, for example, you have great tools available now.
Indeed, which we thought it was not really going to come out in Eastern. We do have it for the first time.
That is interesting. We have seen Medivh coming out from BTG, and once again, it's LLK, who I thought would be leaning towards the Leoric, but it is going to be Loktar picking that up. So a nice little bit of flexibility using those substitute player proficiencies, with Loktar having such a wide hero pool, much to their advantage. I'm really digging it.
And I think Medivh is actually fantastic here, because if you play your cards right, he can really help with the displacement that I just pointed out, especially when you have a Garrosh throw coming in. You can set the portal up, you have your shield there immediately and can save the target. And also you have another tool that directly helps you to counteract Malthael.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think they want to pressure in and dive in with the portal, get that kill onto Rainer. Junkrat, of course, will be not as easy compared to Rainer. I think they will have a lot more chance with the portal, get that engaged with the Diablo. Also, having that escape route, I think it's very important.
That can go vice versa, though, where we can have the issue with Concussion Mine on top of the exit to the portal. 94% to 6%, actually less than we saw in the last series.
Yeah, I am honestly surprised. I expected it to be more, I mean, it's dominant enough already, but I expected it to be more dominant for Gen.G. I mean, we're talking them going up against a team that has to play with 2 subs. So out of BTG, if they can hold on for a long time and get a couple of kills, I would already be impressed, because I don't know where's that synergy, especially with a Korean player that doesn't speak Chinese, at least we assume that. So that's a big question mark.
All right, well, we're going to have to find out as we are ready to head into game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, of our third series of the day. It's going to be Infernal Shrines, and of course, it is Gen.G versus Beyond the Game. Ladies and gentlemen, starting on the left-hand side from China, it is Beyond the Game of Heroes of the Storm. And playing for them, we have Dancing, LLK, 619, Loktar, and Healer Please.
And in red, we had Gen.G, Sake on Malfurion, Reset on Junkrat, Rich on Raynor, Kucha on Marthdale, and Fist on that Garrosh.
So looking at the BTG lineup, there is a lot of wombo combo potential. We of course have that standard setup for Lightning Breath, we have Entomb, we have Leyline. It's all potential setup for that Purification Salvo, but we look to the other side. Calder already talked so much about displacement, didn't he, G-Clef?
I think he does, and that's why just without the escape has to really be careful. Even a engage on with the silence, do they have enough damage? There's a heal.
Good Moonfires. Not good enough Moonfires. And Sake not able to keep his ally alive, but the counter kill onto Loktar, who got flipped in by Tist. A great counter kill.
But doesn't have to worry a lot. Kyocha, whenever he plays a hero like Artanis, that doesn't really show up too many times. He actually does go down in his own lane, even before anything happens. So this is pretty common, not to take him down.
Nothing to worry about.
Yes, nothing to worry about. He does go down a few times, but of course they're Gen.G, so expect to do a lot better. But this is what the Fist does have to worry about. He cannot provide his own escape. He can help a teammate, but BTG is going to focus on that Garrosh. I think they have a really good team comp to do so.
Healer Please has already been dropping some absolute money silences, already impressing within the first couple seconds of the game. But we're also seeing a nice move by BTG using the portals to rotate that little bit quicker. For now, though, we see a mirrored camp catcher on these Khazras.
It's kind of funny how the Eastern teams, especially the Korean teams, as Western would focus a lot more on the team fight, as Sake will just escape. That's not the perfect pair up, and this was already there too, just making sure he has a delay. But talking back to the Western Clash, Eastern Clash, as the Western Clash teams would focus a little bit more onto the teamwork and how the team works together, like the wombo combo. But of course, the Korean teams, they would focus a little bit more on the individual decisions, like the mechanics that they would actually bring into the game.
Exactly. I mean, if we look at this, let's actually count the amount of slows that can actually empower that ace in the hole for that Raynor. And we're really only onto Junkrat, potentially, and Malthael, who hasn't even gone for it. That is a Black Harvest? Is that what that tone's called? I haven't seen it in so long.
I think Kyocha is playing the old style of Malthael, which has not been shown at all in Phase 2, I believe, in Korea. She has actually went down pretty heavily after the introduction of Irel. And, even after Sonya, there's so many. And even having Thrall up there was always a list. Leoric was the second one to go. Martha really never seen from Korea at all.
Oh, good flip, but not enough. Reset, just too mobile with the concussion mine. But yeah, back to Malthael. It is the Black Harvest, and like you said, this is the old style. This is usually what you'd end up combining with Memento Mori. You talked about it. He goes down in that top lane.
It will happen maybe once again in this game, but I'm not too surprised again. Kyocha does that from time to time. Doesn't mean that Gen.G is going to fall. Let's see a little bit more into the game.
I will say I'm very much enjoying Loktar on this Leoric. It's usually Chicken who plays that on RPG, so seeing him on it is nice.
Oh.
Okay, save the stacks!
Look at that reset land. You're going to see that over and over again. Some crazy saves or his own crazy plays with that Junkrat.
Oh, another amazing snipe. Looking
but
for
he does get flipped and gets charged in.
Concussion?
The heals.
Beautiful save. Reset is out of there. Heals from Sake, like you said, has been landing every Moonfire to keep his team alive.
That's the kind of team that you would have. Look for the mines. Actually, he doesn't even set it up before. He knows exactly where the opponent is going to be and throws them in or out for his safety. It does happen a lot in BTG. Trying to regain the control over the shrine now, as they're down a little bit of number though.
16, 17 to 33. It's looking good for Gen.G, but here comes the zoning from the Stukov. Good knockup. We see a great teleport out by Dancing, and 619 is able to flee, but this is going to allow Gen.G to retake that shrine, and they will grab the first Punisher of the game, which is going to be a Frost Punisher.
But still, with with a player that cannot really communicate with BTG is actually doing great or having a great early game. We had some great super plays by individual reset plays, but except for that, oh, look at that, tossed again.
He gets the portal and the teleport, double escape tactics, but Healer Blizz not so lucky. Force of Will delays the inevitable, but he goes down and absolutely wrecked by Raider. He's shredding through them now. Concussion on 619, and he will go down as well.
And that's in the meantime, the Kyocha was actually split, soaking on top, getting extra waves. Gen.G, of course, they're known as a team, even if they have a 4v5, they would go in and win that 4v5 sometimes. But this kind of showing in this early of a game, even with Medivh on BTG, they're not scared to go in. They know all the cooldowns when it's on, when the portal's available, when the Force of Will is available. Just understanding that, I think that's the power that we see from Gen.G.
Here we see Gen.G retaking control of this bottom lane. They've already taken down the fort. Kazarus are going to keep BTG down here, trying to control it as best as they can. But otherwise, this is looking rough for BTG after that first objective. They were pretty even. They were like a little bit of XP behind, but the second those kills happened, the second that puncher was taken, we now have over a full level lead for Gen.G right now.
Now this is a little bit hard, as Gen.G is about to hit 10. It's going to be hard to catch BTG. They're combo designed to actually rotate around and catch targets with their portal and going with the Diablo, but they tried a few times, but with this big of a level difference, it is going to be very hard from this moment on.
Tormented Souls coming in. G-Clave, they've got Touch of Death on level 7. This is all about that team fight coming in here.
Yes, because Kyocha does not want to die anymore. He needs to keep his keep his HP alive at least a little bit. So I think that maybe that's also the choice, and there's two big guys onto the other side, so he does have to choose that.
It makes a lot of sense. It's AoE, which means that Medivh can't just use Force of Will to block the last right. It's going to combo so well with the Black Harvest once he has that stacked, and he can go Memento Mori later. Rip stacks.
1+1.
Them pick up another
Buy
kill.
one, get one. This is what we get. And all Reset has to do is throw down the Concussive Mine on that portal, and he will at least get one off of that portal who's trying to escape, so that target will be very low on HP, very likely. And that's what we're actually having. Just making that play, setting up, and knowing that, understanding that there will be portal right after, just throwing any target in. Gen.G just focus fires, gets the kill.
And now we are seeing here a little bit of a group up in this jungle area. The Banshee scouting this out, but will have to pull back so it doesn't get caught, or at least takes too much damage. That does regen very quickly though, so it's not so bad. These two dueling a little bit in the bot lane. Kyocha doesn't want to miss any minions though, immediately rotates back.
Certainly he doesn't want to go down anymore. BTG with 2 kills, Kyocha only. It's gotta give him some bad feelings, so just keeping that with his power. With Mateo not really too common, but he brings it back. I think he also had they also had an understanding, of course, with Noble as the coach doing the drafting, that China certainly does use from time to time, so maybe that was a steal away pick.
We're going to see hit level 10s finally hit for BTG in the nick of time, as the Shrine is in 6 seconds. But Gen.G, they're already starting to approach their level 13s here. As BTG, they've got that ley line holding at the Phoenix level 10. This has got to be a purification salvo, right? With the Lightning Breath already on the board.
Hey, there's always a chance with the Planet Cracker.
Locked up, Force of Will.
Has to mitigate. Diablo's the only one isolated by the Entomb by himself, unstoppable.
Salvo!
Takes the damage though.
Big salvo damage, but 619 is down. Force of Will keeps Locktar alive, and that salvo did nothing. They were not able to execute anyone, as they were even with the slows from Diablo.
That Entomb actually helped Gen.G to create space for them to focus fire on Diablo alone. Was not a mistake by Leoic, but it's just positioning and how actually they handled the positioning and went back.
Oh, Tears, he's thrown out of the route. The silence there, but they're still able to finish him off, and they got a good engage onto Rich here, chasing him down. Diablo deep, but he's taken too much damage and will get taken out.
A little too much as a portal. Diablo wanted to go in harder as Sake is looking for kills, even as a Malfurion now.
Locktar able to take the kill, but yeah, these guys
not coming around looking more for more kills. Medivh. Portal a little too late there.
Little too late. Lockstar, the only survivor, and he's a Leoric. That's not ideal at all. He's going to have a rough time cleaning up this Punisher on his own, but Spawn time is still pretty low. We're early in the game, so we will see everyone back in time for his defense, but that is now yet another Medivh death. No, he's once again lost all the stacks, and Diablo is very low on souls.
It's going to be worse and worse as they still have the percent damage, and Rich is putting out some crazy amount of damage. As we saw in the first few minutes of the game, he was the only one past 20k already at, I believe, 6-7 minutes. And this is an arcane Punisher. They will try to get the keep out of this.
They've already taken down the fort. This is the perfect opportunity. Reset backing up. He needs to be careful with this rotation, but you can immediately see, well, BTG realize they need to go back, or this keep is 110% dead. Medivh will likely spot the Banshee first and then find Gen.G with this Fallen Shaman camp. This is just going to allow them to snowball with this push.
BTG had that time because the Punisher takes some time to come all the way, and Junkrat, but being careful, making sure the entire member of the opponent is actually gone. He Reset came all the way around. That is the same kind of play that you do expect from Reset.
They're burning it down very slowly, but they're very reliant on Phoenix with that phase bomb. He's finally going into rapid fire mode, and this Punisher will fall, but the keep down to half health with the Fallen Shaman still alive. Gen.G sieging in from range, using Reset to maximum efficiency, and that will be the first keep of the game.
Because they have a lot of range, basic attack damage as well, they understand the range of the portal that could come out anywhere, so that was the reason why they were trying to always, after an auto attack, go back a step and then auto attack later, just being careful when there's a time. Diablo will certainly come in with the portal, just making sure it doesn't have any angle to actually get the sun off the wall. Just understanding the opponent's hero right now from Gen.G, it's just absolutely incredible.
We're not going to see the Memento Mori, no max damage output here for the Malthael. We're instead seeing Soul Collector. You mentioned staying alive. This gives him so many consistent heals, a little bit of extra burst damage compared to the consistent damage over time, which can just massively stack up with Memento. This is good. This is committing to the fact that you might get disengaged on with massive, with the Flaming Swipe or the Ley Line. So this is a little bit more immediate damage.
Really have to look for really late game, possibly even close to 20, maybe into with the silence that could bring up some crazy charges in. But before that, oh no, look at that, with stun and Phoenix, let's get protected, but
Portal anywhere?
Again, they cannot root away so many CCs available from this chain CCs from Gen.G.
Yabo down as well. He doesn't even have close to enough souls, not even over 50 at this point. And the stacks on Medivh are not reset, but he doesn't actually have that many as he is forced back into the base. Second keep of the game, gonna fall double Impaler camps. Spawn time is still pretty low. How much are Gen.G willing to commit here? They're clearing out the lanes, looking like they might want to make something happen.
There are lots of closing opportunities for Gen.G, and there's no bad ending for them. I think they cannot find a bad ending unless something really bad happens, which is very unlikely. They just have to choose their ending right now. BTG, they're focused on Rich. He was almost baited here. Let's take a look, but this is still...
Line. Oh my god. Oh my god, Lightning Rev, where's the damage? There's the salvo, they try to execute it, but no one gets even closer by. Finally, they finish off Malthael. Kyocha goes down, but so does Lockstar. That would at least delay the end.
Reset the survive, but Warps Dancing actually warps in for the kill to sacrifice himself. That's the trade, but still with Rich alive, posting out so much damage. Look at that, Garrosh throws Rich in.
Yeah. The Impalers have still been whittling away on the core this entire time. Catapults have now arrived, 619. There is nothing he can do here. He tries to delay as much as he can, but there's too much damage on the core. And that's going to be it. GG in favor of Gen.G.
Rip stats again, Medivh never completing that. And for 12%, they're just having fun at the moment. That is going to be it. Gen.G getting the first game.
Very well played by Gen.G. Game number one goes over to them. Slow, no unnecessary risks. A couple deaths on their side, but BTG, they were not able to hang with the current mid-season Brawl champions.
So have it.
I would actually argue that at this point, with 6 kills in the game, that was the most successful map that China had so far.
I would agree with you. I mean, they still got outplayed in the objectives, but kill-wise, they were played very well in terms of ganking Kyocha. No one, Gen.G weren't able to react to keep him alive. I mean, G-Code was already talking about it in the game, but it was quite interesting. They did go down so much.
Yeah, Kyocha died 4 times, and it's... I wouldn't say it's common. Whenever he plays a hero that he didn't really play in the last 2 months, sometimes he does, which like Artanis or in this case Marteo, he does go down a lot in the solo lane, and of course, a few of them in team fight, he was almost sacrificing himself to get that space for Rich to do the maximum damage. But it all worked out together for them.
I think what you could really see is that Medivh had quite a bit of an impact onto the game, so there were a lot of saves, like really clutch saves on him. Some of them backfired a little bit when Junkrat then came in again with a Riptire and on the second attempt was able to secure a kill. But just as on a general note, Medivh definitely having a huge impact from the Chinese side. So I would really like to see a bit more Medivh play from them, because that's really what was a bit of an X factor in the game, I want to say.
Yeah, if you lower down that level difference in that final fight with the ley line into the lightning breath, I think that might have been a game-changing play, but the level difference was too insane. Malfurion just too quick with the heals, but overall, those wombo combos have been mostly on point. It's just Gen.G have been able to play around them so well.
Yeah, they got a pretty nice combo for themselves. They got Junkrat to survive himself all the time. He was actually, when he only had 30% of the HP, he was actually drawing the opponent in because he knew with his skills, with his personal mechanical skills, he could actually stay alive and also draw the opponent in for an extra kill. That's the kind of play that we saw from Reset. Hope to continue on the Junkrat.
Like, I have to admit, I'm actually impressed by BTG simply because they play with two supports. They have a maybe it's the Korean player that makes all the difference here, who knows? But at the same time, that with the setup where they just now had to adjust their lineup again with another visa problem, they go up against Gen.G and they get 6 kills in that game. That was looking a lot better than I expected, especially in the early game when they even got first blood. I didn't expect that at all. I thought that would be the most clean-cut series or the clean-cut match that you had so far. They won still with a 4-level lead, but the early game surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, mechanically wise, Locktar was on point. Healer, please, had some fantastic silences. And the next map might give them more time and more opportunities to show that, as it's going to be Battlefield of Eternity. Perhaps maybe a show from Karazim from Healer, please, as a good immortal racer, potentially.
Picked by BTG, by the way, so they really want the pain, apparently. So
they want the
yeah, I mean, this is another 100% win rate Gen.G map, like most of them are. So, yeah, we know where Countdown's coming from there.
Yeah, but we've seen games that team played where it was just basically, okay, how fast can we end this?
They've opened up the opportunity for Rich's Alarak, though, so that might be a crowd favorite.
And that's not the only one. The Tracer that I talked about before, and even Hanzo on this map got to be banned or will be first pick for sure, because if BTG pick the map, of course Gen.G will have the first one. If Hanzo is let in Rich's hand, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be painful.
Well, I refuse to let you guys wait any longer before we head into this draft.